there was some hot rumors flying around the web, everybody. And that's thanks to one of our favorites, Ken Rosenthal. Yes, I'm being sarcastic. But in Ken's defense, he made some excellent points here about the Angels, actually, and some of the missteps they made along the way with Shohei Ohtani, including some new information that I had never heard of or thought of before. And so I wanted to first and foremost give Ken a rare pat on the back for bringing some news and juicy stuff to talk about that I hadn't really been privy to before this.
Okay.
But we're going to stop this along the way because he makes a couple of really interesting points, and we're going to get into it. Are you ready, Nika?
Think so.
All right. Let's hear from Ken Rosenthal.
Ohtani. They had him for 6 years, and yet they never capitalized in the way that the Dodgers have. One, their failure to capitalize economically, and that means bringing in sponsorships. It means bringing in fans. They had every opportunity, didn't take advantage of that. Then they had every opportunity.
All right, let's pause. So we've talked about this quite a bit here because we talk about the Dodgers having all this plethora of money all the time, and not only do they have the best television deal in all of sports, period, they also have all these new Japanese sponsorship deals that they've cut since Shohei Ohtani was brought into the fold. There's like 3 or 4 big Japanese companies at least now that are sponsors of the Dodgers. Their logos are all over Dodger Stadium. They're on the Dodgers uniforms. They're in different places, and they are a very prominent place in this relationship.
Okay.
So it's really interesting to me that there was never a thought by the Angels marketing team to reach out to some of these Japanese businesses. I know that Ohtani is not the unicorn that he is today when he first came into the major leagues in 2018. In fact, he was coming in on a Tommy John, was he not?
Yeah.
But by 2021, 2022, you should have damn well known that you had Babe Ruth 2.0 on your team, and you should have been doing a better job of spreading your wings. I mean, you cost your team a lot of money by not exploring or even thinking to do this. And so it is a huge fumble of the ball by the Angels, and wow, that's all I got to say to that. If they didn't work on this, and I don't think they did. I think their marketing team is too worried about what's being posted on social media and not thinking about being savant like this enough.
Yeah.
Savvy. This is a savvy business move by the Dodgers to do this, and they recognize that Ohtani is Jordan 2.0 in a way, where he has that Jordan-esque ability to command the room.
Well, but when you look at the Angels, how they conduct business since Ohtani, nothing has changed. They just reach out for some shiny objects here and there because they have to.
Well, they didn't explore these business
They have
partnerships.
not.
And so we're going to hear now how else they screwed this up as it
Okay.
goes on. Let's hear.
They had every opportunity to trade Ohtani, and they didn't do that. Jackson Merrill was at one point part of the talks between the Padres and Angels when they were discussing Ohtani. This was in 22. Padres at that time couldn't get Ohtani, so they pivoted to Soto. 2.5 years of control
Pause
for
it.
Soto.
What?
I
I know that the Padres have always been sort of interested in Ohtani. There's always been the whispers and stuff that they were going to even try and get him last year when the Dodgers signed him to the crazy contract. I don't think that was ever going to happen after Peter Seidler died, unfortunately. The funny thing about this and the interesting about this is this was before Peter Seidler died that they're talking about here. This is in 2022. And I saw some people on Padres Twitter and out and about saying that this is not true, that Jackson Merrill was never, ever going to be traded. I don't know if I buy that completely because of A.J. Preller's ways.
Jackson Merrill was a prospect at that time. He wasn't doing what he's doing now in the majors. He was just a prospect.
Yeah.
And Preller likes to deal and wheel with prospects.
He does.
I think the problem was just the 1 year of control and how much other players Padres will have to give up in order to get a loaner like a Ohtani for a year.
For 1 year, yeah. And,
That's the problem.
The funny thing is when you look back on this would have meant that not only would Jackson Merrill be an Angel today in the outfield, maybe, or at shortstop, he
Maybe.
might have never
To
switched positions. The other thing that's interesting about this is, would Ohtani have ever went to the Dodgers? Peter Seidler was still alive when this trade would have went down, and they would have had the same amount of length of time that Soto actually stayed on the Padres.
True.
Because they would have had 2.5 years of Soto, which they did have, and they would have only had 1.5 year of Ohtani control. So there was a difference there in terms of like the length of which player they would have traded for to have. But in retrospect, we were talking about the Angels, and we were talking about whether or not they should have done this, and the absolutely answer is yes.
Yeah.
They should have traded Ohtani if they were never ever going to re-sign him, and they should have recognized that, or they should have realized that sooner. And I don't think they ever had a fighting chance.
I think the media made it sound like the Angels are always in it. They will make it to playoffs. They will be there no matter what. And
well, they wanted to because of Trout and Ohtani. They had the number one and two players on their Hot 100 list on the same team, and it's just blowing their mind that they can't make the playoffs.
Exactly. And when is that? That should never be a factor to you when you already looking at the numbers and you might never make it. Why not get something for the player?
Yeah, I don't know.
Just because some talking heads talk on the television, I don't get it. It's a bad business decisions that were made.
Well, I can understand that if the Angels would have traded Ohtani, their fan base probably would have never forgiven them.
Okay.
But at the same time,
they let him go for nothing.
They got nothing in return for him except for another year of services. Like, you could have had 6 years of Jackson Merrill.
And what did you do with that?
And more. You could have had all those players that the Padres shipped to the Nationals. Probably, I don't know if you could have had Merrill, and imagine if you had Merrill and James Wood.
Oh, wow. Impressive.
Imagine if you had Merrill, James Wood, and Mackenzie Gore, and C.J. Abrams. I mean, like, where does it end?
Wow.
They probably didn't need 2 shortstops, but...
There's a multiverse in some other universe that is happening.
I do think so. I think in some other universe, Ohtani became a Padre, and who knows, maybe he signed that crazy contract before Peter Seidler died with the Padres.
Maybe.
That was not in this reality. That was not in this realm.
Yeah.
Do we have more Ken Rosenthal to finish here? I
Yes.
think we have a little bit.
1.5 for Ohtani, but the packages likely would have been similar. This was Shohei Ohtani. Merrill was part of it. Whether he would have been part of the final deal, hard to say. We don't know. The mere fact that they could have made that kind of deal for Ohtani, well, it just shows that they missed on an opportunity.
Yeah.
Now, if you were going to sign Ohtani, you had that in your head, okay, then maybe you don't trade him, and maybe you think we'll just keep him and do that, but they didn't sign Ohtani either. So in every step, every stage here, they fell short and they missed an opportunity, and it's everything. It's the failure to capitalize financially. It's the failure to trade him, and then the failure to sign him when you could have had Ohtani for the same deal that he took from the Dodgers. Now, I don't know that Ohtani would have taken the Angels over the Dodgers, but the Angels didn't value him properly, didn't see his place in the sport properly, and it all led to all this.
It all led to all this. Yeah, I clipped this because I just found this whole thing fascinating. Like, how to screw up, basically how to lose Michael Jordan, right? If you're a team, this is how you do it. This is a playbook. The Angels invented it. It's now available for you and all of your peers.
And paste.
You can feel free to examine it to your heart's content so that you do not make the same mistake that Artie Moreno, the owner of the Angels, made with Shohei Ohtani. Because if you see what the Dodgers are doing right now with Ohtani and the money they're making just through the endorsement, advertisements, and sponsorships alone, it's quite a sight to behold.
Better marketing.